A fundamental concept in digital graphics design is the drawing order. Hi, I'm Pamela Schultz, and in this video, I'll be talking about how you control the drawing order in DataGraph, a macOS tool for creating graphs and data analysis. And in DataGraph, you have this convenient drag and drop mechanism that I'll demonstrate that makes it very easy and simple to change the drawing order of elements. And I'll also be highlighting a new feature in DataGraph 5.5 that gives you more control over the drawing order when you're creating multiple line plots. A common question actually that we get from new users who are starting out with DataGraph is, what do I do when I add an element to a graph and I find that it's covering up an element that I want to be shown in the front? And actually, this is a really simple thing to do. DataGraph is actually very similar to a computer program where, think about a computer program where each line in the code is read individually and in sequence. In DataGraph, every command that you add is read in sequence, and each element is drawn in the order that it's shown. That means that whatever's at the bottom of your list is going to be shown on top of the graph. If you want to change the drawing order, it's really easy. All you have to do is click and drag to move elements up and down and change the order that they're drawn in. Now let's talk about the plots command. And just to be clear, there is a plot command and a plots command. The plot command has an icon that's in the default toolbar, and this is a command that's very useful when you want to draw a single line or you want to have multiple lines from different data sets and be able to control them individually. But if you have a data set where you have a single X column and multiple Y columns, in fact, this is similar to what I talked about in the last video for DataGraph 5.5, where we use the bars command. But this type of format, this wide format, works with the plots command. This is something I can get from the draw icon. And if I have my data selected and I add the plots command, it will automatically create multiple lines for each of the Y columns that I had selected. Another handy thing about the plots command is that if I go into the gear menu, I can select one of the color schemes that is by default within DataGraph, so I can very quickly color all of my lines. And I can also do things like customize the various symbols that each line has. In the last video from this playlist on DataGraph 5.5 features, I talked about in the bars command how you have this similar type of a list of elements and how you can click and drag them to change the order there. And not surprisingly, the same thing works here in the plots command. If I want to change the drawing order of these elements, I can do that by a click and a drag to change the order. And that works just fine with a graphic like this, where I just have 3 lines, not difficult to move them around to change the order if that's what I want to do. However, what if I have a lot of signals? This is a common type of graphic that's used particularly in scientific types of graphs where we have a lot of signals that we want to compare. Often for these types of graphs, we also plot the data and then hide the scale on the y-axis, and the plots command has a very convenient feature for being able to offset both in the x direction and in the y direction, so we can create these very interesting looking types of graphs that show us the signals. But here's the problem. In the prior version of DataGraph, if you didn't like the order when it was created by default, then it's kind of tedious to have to move everything around. But now we have added this new feature that's called order that lets you reverse the drawing order. And I have found this to be very convenient for these types of graphs where I'm having multiple signals that I want to draw and I want to show them stacked in a certain way, possibly even add a fill, and it creates a really nice look and again gives me control over what the graphs looks like without having to change my data or do a lot of tedious moving around of elements. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe if you have not done that yet. And if you have any comments, questions, you can leave them in this video below or contact us, help@visualdatatools.com.